All right, let's talk about one of the biggest game changers in personal finance, the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a book that basically took everything we thought we knew about money, flipped it on its head, and showed a totally different way to think about building wealth. So, let's get right into it.
You know the old playbook, right? It's what our parents and their parents were told. But here's the big question. In today's world, does that advice still work? I mean, with everything changing so fast, is a safe job really all that safe anymore? The book makes a pretty bold claim that for most of us, this path is actually a trap. Why? Well, because it trains us to be fantastic employees, but it doesn't teach us a thing about how to be owners or investors.
So the whole story is told through the eyes of the author, Robert Kiyosaki, who grew up with two very different father figures. There was his actual dad, who he calls his poor dad, and then there was his best friend's father, his rich dad. Now, both of these guys were successful, but man, when it came to money, they were from two completely different planets.
And this is where it gets really interesting. You can see the clash in how they thought. Poor dad, super educated guy, highly valued job security. He'd always say, the love of money is the root of all evil. But then you have rich dad, who dropped out in the 8th grade and built a business empire. His take, the lack of money is the root of all evil. See the difference? Poor dad would hit a wall and say, I can't afford it. Conversation over. Rich dad would ask, okay, how can I afford it? One mindset just shuts your brain down, while the other kicks it into high gear to solve the problem.
And that right there, that's the whole ballgame. It's the core idea. Poor dad's entire financial life was built around his next paycheck. He was stuck in that cycle. Work, pay taxes, pay bills, repeat. Rich dad, on the other hand, he knew that real wealth wasn't about how big your salary is. It's about owning things that make you money even when you're sleeping. This is that huge mental leap from being just a worker to becoming an owner.
So, the big question is, how do you do that? How do you actually get your money to start working for you? Well, Rich Dad said it all boils down to one incredibly simple, super powerful rule. Seriously, this is the secret that splits the rich from everybody else. And the key takeaway here is that it has nothing to do with how much you earn, but everything to do with understanding one simple concept.
First things first, we gotta know the lingo. An asset. It's just something that puts money in your pocket. That's it. It's that simple. We're talking about things like a rental property that pays you rent every month, or stocks that give you dividends, or maybe a business you own that pretty much runs itself. An asset is basically your own personal money-making machine.
And then you've got the opposite, a liability. This is anything that takes money out of your pocket. You know, your car payment, credit card debt. And here's the one that gets people fired up, your own house. Yeah. Now, your banker might call it an asset, but think about it. Every single month, money flows out for the mortgage, the taxes, the repairs. So in this way of thinking, it's a liability. And this is the critical difference in behavior. Most people are completely obsessed with their paycheck. They get a raise, and what's the first thing they do? Boom, buy a bigger house, a fancier car, which are just more liabilities. And that's what keeps them stuck. The rich, they could care less about the car. They are relentlessly focused on one thing, using their income to buy more assets. Their goal isn't just a bigger salary, it's to build a giant asset column that eventually makes so much money they don't even need a salary anymore.
This laser focus on buying assets is the only real way to get out of what the book famously calls the rat race. You know that feeling, right? That endless hamster wheel of working just to pay your bills. Well, the strategy to get off that wheel is simple but powerful. Mind your own business.
Okay, let's actually trace the money here because this shows exactly how that trap works. So you're an employee. You work your tail off for that paycheck, but follow the money. Before you ever see a dime, it goes out to the government for taxes. Then it goes out again to the bank for your mortgage, your car loan. Who gets paid last? You do. This is the system that keeps people running in place forever.
Now, this is a super important idea to get your head around. Your profession, that's your job. You could be a doctor, a writer, a coder. That's how you earn money. But your business, in this philosophy, your business is your asset column. The plan isn't to just up and quit your job, no way. The idea is you keep your day job to pay the bills, and you use your free time to start minding your own business, which means building up that asset column.
And here it is. This is the roadmap to freedom. Just look at the flow of money here. The paycheck from your job comes in. But instead of it all just vanishing into expenses, you see a chunk of it is intentionally moved over to your asset column. Then, those assets, your business, start spitting out their own income. And here's the magic.
You use that new income to buy even more assets. You create this incredible, powerful cycle that just grows and grows.
Okay, but how do you find these assets in the first place, right? How do you know a good investment from a terrible one? This brings us to what is maybe the most important part of this whole roadmap, the single best investment you can ever make.
Think about it. Money, stocks, real estate, it can all come and go. But what you know, your financial education, no one can ever take that away from you. Your mind is the ultimate tool for creating wealth, because when it's trained, you start to see opportunities that literally everyone else misses. It's why a lottery winner can get millions and be broke a year later. Money without financial intelligence, it just doesn't last.
So how do you train your brain? Here are 3 concrete steps. First, pay yourself first. This is huge. It means as soon as you get paid, the very first bill you pay is to your asset column. You invest first. The pressure of then having to pay your actual bills forces you to get creative and find more income. Second, master a formula, then learn a new one. Get really good at one type of investing, like small rental properties. Once you've mastered it, start learning the next one. Always be learning. And finally, manage risk instead of avoiding it. Being safe doesn't mean doing nothing. Smart investors don't avoid risk, they learn how to manage it.
So, in the end, it really all boils down to this. Every single dollar that comes into your life is a choice. It's a vote for the kind of future you want. You can spend it, which makes someone else richer. Or you can invest